Are you ready to get your prayers answered? You can if you learn to pray the greatest prayer. You say, what's the greatest prayer? Well, of course, it's the Lord's Prayer. It's the prayer that Jesus gave us. You know, Luke chapter 11, verse 1, it says, one day Jesus was praying in a certain place, and when he had finished, one of his disciples came to him and said, teach us to pray as John taught his disciples to pray. And what did Jesus say? He didn't say, oh, you don't need to learn how to pray. Everyone knows how to pray. Just talk from your heart. Wrong. See, just because you talk from your heart doesn't mean your prayers are powerful. No, Jesus doesn't tell us just pray any way you want to pray. Prayer has to be taught. So when they ask, teach us to pray, Jesus then teaches them. Because prayer has to be taught, just like driving has to be taught. Do you remember when you were a teenager, you watched your parents drive a car? Come on, how many of y'all thought to yourself, you're 13, 14 years old, and you say to yourself, that looks easy, I can do it. But it isn't easy. Because you have to know the rules. You have to get a handbook. You have to start finding out what's the right rules. What happens when you stop at a four-way stop sign? Who goes first? Some of you still don't know who goes first. No, there are rules to go by in order to be a good, safe driver. And in order to be a successful prayer, you have to follow the rules. And Jesus in this Lord's Prayer is giving us guidance and showing us the rules of prayer. So in Matthew chapter 6, Jesus gives us the details on how to pray successfully. Watch this. He says, don't be like the pagans, like the heathen. And he says this in verse 6, then your Father who sees what is done in secret will reward you. Now, do you want rewards in prayer? Yes. Notice Jesus didn't say the Father will answer your prayers. He said the Father will reward you. Rewarding is different than answers. You know why? Listen to me. Not all prayer is about asking for things. You see, that's your problem, some of you. That's all you know about prayer. I need a new husband. I need health. I need some money. Come on, people. Prayer is more than asking for things. Now, asking is part of prayer, but that's only a small part of prayer. So I find it interesting in Matthew 6, Jesus didn't say the Father will answer. He says the Father will reward you. Because why? Most prayer is not asking. Not if you're doing it right. Yeah, if you're doing it right, then it is not asking. It is more about praising. Listen, let's keep reading. Verse 7. And when you pray, do not keep on babbling like pagans, for they think they will be heard because of their many words. Do not be like them, for your Father knows what you need before you ask him. You know what's getting me? Jesus is actually downplaying asking. And yet most people upplay asking. Because if you ask somebody, do you have any prayer requests? Almost everyone has something that they're asking. Usually it's health. It's about a marriage problems. They want a spouse. They need money. Come on. But Jesus says the Father already knows that. Now, he doesn't say you shouldn't ask. You should ask. And you should be specific. But that's not the only thing about prayer. So when Jesus teaches on prayer, he says, don't be like them who's focusing on asking, asking, and asking. So he begins the prayer this way. Verse 9, this is then how you should pray. Our Father in heaven, hallowed be your name. You know how he begins the prayer? With praise. See, praise should start off in prayer. Well, isn't that what Psalm 100 says? Enter his gates with thanksgiving, enter his courts with what? Praise. That's how you come to the throne. You come to the throne through praise. Some of you don't praise enough. You ask a lot, but you don't praise. There was a missionary woman who contracted smallpox many years ago, long before there was a vaccine and a cure. And she was dying. She was praying. She had everyone around praying for her. And she kept getting worse and worse. And right there, she has a vision. And in this vision, she sees one of those weight scales. You know those scales where it goes up and down, right? You put weights on one side, weights on the other to balance it out. And on one side of the weights, she saw the word prayer, and it was heavy, and it was down at the bottom. Then the other side, she saw the weight says praise. It had just a few things on it. And so it was unbalanced like this. And that's when the Lord spoke and said, if your praise will equal your prayers will be answered. And that's when she realized she had to praise. And as she praised God, all of a sudden the symptoms lifted her. She wasn't even asking for anything because she's focusing on praise. And in the Lord's Prayer, he tells us, you begin with praise.